U.S. President Donald Trump is making the deportation of immigrants one of his administration's top priorities, keeping his promise during his election campaign. Immigration raids on those who have overstayed their visas and non-citizens with criminal histories have already started, with arrests increasing dramatically in recent days. Much attention has focused on the hundreds of thousands of migrants at risk of being deported to Latin America. But people from many other parts of the world, including the Balkans, have been ordered to leave as well.
They illegally broke our nation's laws, and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
Joining me now from Torun in Poland is Francesco Trupia, policy analyst at the Nicolaus Copernicus University. And in Pristina, we have political analyst Donika Emini. Donika, let me start with you. Do we have any idea about how many people from Balkan countries might be affected by Trump's deportation plans?
Unfortunately, we don't know the real number. I've been working in 2012 at the Kosovo consulate in the US, and we have been dealing with deportation cases. It really depends on what are the numbers that the US administration has, and then what are the numbers that the actual administrations from the respective countries have. Oftentimes, these people do not want to have any documentation, fearing that being in the system will automatically flag them. So most of the cases, they even feared of applying for a Kosovo passport or an ID. Back then, in 2012 at least, or before the world became so unconventional, the people who would be deported would be only people who potentially had problems with the law, have been imprisoned, and then once they checked the documents, they entered through the process of deportation, which oftentimes took from weeks to months, even a year, for the entire process, depending on how much they actually were preparing. The deportation officer was moving the cases forward. Now it's completely different. Now everyone is under scrutiny. There are, being searches everywhere. And of course, there are people who can be flagged.
Francesco, we know that Balkan states struggle to count their diaspora even. So how big of a problem is this for them?
Well, for the Balkan states, it's always a problem to engage with the diaspora, which is playing a pivotal role in the Balkan states themselves. I agree with Donika about her analysis, but I would like to add also that this kind of deportation plan is very puzzling at this moment. Some news are arriving from the US. It seems that people who get arrested, they are deported, but at the same time taken back to the US because perhaps they don't have a dangerous criminal report, or they are still waiting for the papers to be in order. And of course, the Balkan communities in the US, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of citizens, but it's a very heterogeneous community. It's a community which is composed of the second and third generation, and apparently they are not going to be hit the hardest by this kind of deportation plan, or they are not going to be hit the hardest at all. And at the same time, however, this kind of discourse and political narrative is going to take a toll among these post-migrant communities, including those from the Balkans. Because behind
what options do they have? I mean, I know you're not a legal expert, but this, what options can they do? What can they do when they face deportations?
Well, first of all, there are community centers and NGOs that are already working with communities that are supposed to be deported. Another option they can face is basically to follow the instructions of these NGOs. And regarding the Balkans, let's say that 3 Balkan states, namely Kosovo, Albania, and Romania, they have already started to cooperate with the immigration customs enforcement, and over there the numbers are very low in comparison to Mexican and to South American communities. So the options they have, they are at stake because of this political climate, but at the same time there is a way on a legal means to get this, and the Balkan communities shouldn't be, let's say, the first who are going to be deported.
Right. Donika, what kind of cooperation? I mean, Francesco mentioned that some countries already started cooperating with the US. But looking broadly, will everyone want to cooperate on this with the US? I know Poland already is cooperating. Kosovo, these are all, let's say, the US allies. But there are countries that are not.
There are, yeah, I mean, it's very complicated to see how one country would want to cooperate with an administration that is, working completely in an unconventional way. I mean, we have seen other decisions to bigger countries such as Canada, Mexico, China even, that are like basically under the hot seat because of the decisions that this administration is taking. So I don't think there is an option of whether you want to cooperate or not. The only time when a country cannot legally cooperate if the person that is going to be deported does not exist in the system. That's why I said sometimes these immigrants made sure to either be completely erased from the systems of their country of origin, and to make sure that once they are in the hands of the deported, of the authorities that could deport them, there will be no legal basis to be returned to the country. But apparently, this deal with El Salvador might change this. Because from now on, even if you are from another country or a country of origin that doesn't cooperate, or a country of origin that is a high risk of return, because we have countries that are at war and you cannot simply return people there, you can send it to another country. And unfortunately, this it's not unprecedented. I mean, the UK wanted to do the same with Rwanda, and there is even Italy is outsourcing immigrants with Albania. So even in cases when the country of origin does not want to cooperate, there are ways of doing so. And that's why, but as again, I completely agree with Francesco, like the administration remained quite ambiguous on who is criminal and what is to be called a criminal, because if you had seen the White House interview, the spokesperson calls all of them criminals because they have entered illegally in the US, which is true, but they are not all of them illegal. In the US, the system has in a way nurtured this gray area in which a person does not have documents, cannot leave the US, but has some sort of either social security number or has some ways to pay taxes. So they do not have documents, but they have the also the work permission.
Right.
So this is a gray area in which they are wrong when they say that they don't pay taxes, because even if you are illegally there, you don't have documents, you end up paying taxes anyway. So yes,
right. A lot of people in the U.S. disagrees with calling them all criminals. We've heard that voiceover from Caroline Levitt, Trump spokesperson, saying that, calling them all criminals. Francesco, the thing is, American voters voted for Trump. They wanted this. They wanted tougher immigration laws. And also many post-immigrant communities and people of color voted for Trump.
Yes, as you said, basically, the post-migrant communities and people of color have voted for Trump, and Trump was successful precisely among this segment of the US society, which basically means that on the one hand, we have kind of internalized anti-immigration discourse among the migrant and the post-migrant communities in the US, which is something very familiar with the discourse and the political atmosphere in Europe as well. Unfortunately, we know how the idea of US as first, America first, is having reverberations and repercussions in Europe. On the other hand, we have at the same time post-migrant community or migrants themselves who are on the edge of the US society because of the new Trump's plans of deportation. And speaking of which, I would like also to add the fact that this deportation is going to be extended to perhaps Balkan people who are right now students in the US. So because there is an attack on critical thoughts, and there are many of the Bosniak diaspora and Albanian diaspora from Kosovo who have stood against the Israel operation in Gaza, and how the stances are for Trump. So basically also these students may have their visa and their scholarship scratched off because of their political positions over the turmoil in the Middle East.
Okay, many questions still needs answers. Donika, Francesco, thank you so much for being our guests. And thanks for watching. See you next time from me and the whole team here in Istanbul. Bye-bye for now.